Slaughter daughter, the badass bitch. When you first got into wrestling and you had the conversation with mom, how did you first get started? Like what, I know you just, somebody said, hey, come and check out, we're at this barn. You went out to the barn.
Yeah, my friend Bill Tweet was a sports writer, and he worked for a company in Minneapolis that did films on different sporting events. And so his assignment was to do a story on a pro wrestling training camp. And so we always went to the matches together. And so when he called me up, I was, of course, working for your grandfather, my dad, roofing business. And he said, hey, Bob, I got this assignment. Go do a story on a pro wrestling training camp. You want to go along and watch it? So I said, well, let me talk to my dad. So I told my dad, and he said, yeah, go. I said, well, I don't have to leave until about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, so I can work most of the day. He said, not a problem. So it was time for me to go. So I went home and cleaned up, showered, got a nice suit on, and I was thinking that we were going to a gymnasium, someplace around, the area. And Bill said, oh, we're going out to this barn out in Eden Prairie. And well, that's where I live. That's where we live. So I said, what barn are you talking about? And he started telling me it's on County Road 4. And, I know where that barn is. Okay, let's go. And I was surprised that it was going to be in a barn. So we got out there, and when we pulled in, there was like 10 cars parked outside this barn. We walk in, and there's, bales of hay and stacks of hay and bales of hay, and, chickens and dogs and ducks and cows, and horses, all in this barn. And I look to my right, and I see this ring all the way down to the end of the barn. And
sure, it smelled lovely.
Oh, yeah. Had the atmosphere.
Right.
Good atmosphere. You had to kind of be careful where you walked. And so I thought, well, I overdressed for this one, So we're standing around watching. We walk finally over to the ring area, and there's a little light bulb hanging down from the ceiling, and this ring. And these guys are like working out, throwing each other around, and basically just doing calisthenics. And finally, it was time for them to stop. So Vern Gagne and his other wrestling friend, Billy Robinson, could, tell us what was going on, explain everything. So then I looked, and I kind of looked at the participants in the ring that were doing all this calisthenics, and 3 or 4 of them I wrestled in high school. And I got to thinking, hell, if they could be professional wrestlers, I sure could be, because I beat them. I beat them in high school.
Right.
So I started watching it, and pretty soon Vern Gagne yells out, could we get a volunteer to come in the ring and put some holds on them and show that, what we do is real, and
we
all
need
this
a dummy.
So I did the old, what was his name? Was it Jack Nicholson? No, it was the other guy. Anyway, you talking to me?
Oh, Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro in the taxi driver.
Yeah.
I started looking around. I said, you talking to me? I knew who they were talking to. So I was the only one there.
Right.
That didn't have a camera or a notepad. And I looked like a mark, I guess. So that.
Well, you were so big, tall, and.
Right. So finally, it says, I guess, you want me in the ring? He goes, yeah. You mind come on there? Yeah. Get in there. I didn't even take my sports coat off. I'm like standing in the ring. And Vern Gagne says, now this is what we call, what's your name? And before I can even say my name, he puts me in this front face lock, trips my leg, falls on top of me with all his weight, and he's in he's got his legs spread out with all his weight on top of my back of my neck, and choking the life out of me. I couldn't breathe, so I'm tapping, what we call tap.
Right.
But I wasn't giving them the old, okay, I give up. I was like, I couldn't breathe. I was like dying. So finally he lets me up. He's kind of like laughing. He said, now that's a front face lock. That's a professional wrestling front face lock. So I'm sitting there, catching my breath. He picks me up and says, now this is something else. And I'm in the same position. This time I'm looking up and all the breath is coming out of my body because he's got me choked out. So I'm whacking him. I think I was hitting him pretty hard, so he let go a little sooner than he wanted to. So finally I rolled out of the ring, and he said, where are you going? Too tough for you? And I said, no, not too tough, but just don't see any reason to stay in there. Why not? I said, well, because you're taking advantage of me. Advantage of you? You think I was taking advantage of you? I said, yeah, I kind of think you were. And so he said, well, come on in. You think you can do any better? So I said, well, better than I was doing. So he said, come on in. So now I take my sports coat off and I undo my tie, undo the top button. And I'm standing there and he says, get down on all fours. Yeah, get down on all fours. We'll see what you got. That's a term for amateur wrestling. Get down on all fours. And got your hands and you're on your knees. So he yells out, hey, Rick, you get on it first. And it was like, thank you, dear God.
Did you beat Rick before?
I beat Rick a few times in high school. So I'm going, oh, thank God. And I hear Rick go, Coach, I got a bad elbow. I can't.
Oh,
Rick. I get out of it.
Rick.
So then I hear Bergagna go, don't give me that SHIT. Get on it. So Rick comes over, whispers in my ear as he's getting on top of me to start this wrestling match. And he whispered in my ear, take it easy on me, Bob. Take it easy on me. And I went,
put me over.
Yeah. I thought to myself, screw you.
Right.
So
I just got my ass kicked.
Yeah. So Bergagna says, wrestle, and boom. I pinned Rick. So I didn't go over so well. That wasn't what Bergagna was
wanted.
Because I was already what we call blown up. I didn't have a whole lot of air in me, but now I got less because I'm struggling to get away from Rick and get a pin. So as I get up, I thought, well, I guess I showed them and I'm going to get out of the ring. He says, oh, yeah, let's try one more. So I get down. He said, get down on all fours. So I get down, and here comes Campatera. Campatera, you get him. Campatera was just out of the Olympics, won the silver medal for weightlifting. So he's like probably 300 pounds or more, all muscle. I mean, there wasn't an ounce of fat on him. And so I said, I don't have a lot of air left back in me, so I thought I just got to try to hold my own. That's all I want to do is hold
do my best.
So Rick, Ken gets on me in the wrestling position, and Vern goes, wrestle. And I worked it out, so I escaped from him. So I'm standing up looking down on Ken, who's getting up, and wasn't real happy either. And now Vern is really ticked off because here's two of his guys, and who's this guy walking in off the damn back road and into my barn and embarrassing my training camp here, my guys. So he looks over at Billy Robinson, who's sitting up on the top turnbuckle with his arms crossed like this. And Billy was from England, and he was the British Empire heavyweight champion and had one eye. He only had one eye, he had a glass eye,
Mm.
and he had pure black hair, all because he'd been working out there. He was sweaty. It was all hanging out, and he was get this big jetted jaw, not as jetted as mine, but
I was going to say, as big as yours?
thick jaw.
Mm-hmm.
And so he says, Vern says, "Hey, Billy, what do you think about this guy?" Now, you have to kind of get the situation in your head. Here's me and this big, he's a professional wrestler. He's not a guy that's being trained. He is a professional wrestler.
Right.
So he jumps down and he starts walking around me and he starts calling me every word in the book. He's nothing but a C. He's a C. You're a C coming to my face. You're a C. You're this. You're that. You're this. You're that. But that C word he kept drilling into me,
The see you next Tuesday word?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So he said, "Get down on all fours. See what you got." So,
that was some fighting words.
Yeah. So I'm not looking forward to this at all.
Mm-mm.
And I wasn't sure if I should get down on all fours, but I figured he's gonna wipe me out. What the hell? He's a professional wrestler. I did okay. So I get down on all fours, and as he comes over to get in the wrestling position, he dropped his shin on the back of my leg.
Ooh.
Try to break my foot or break my leg, and
playing dirty.
Oh, dirty
and, dog.
And that sharp pain, like a knife, was going through my ankle.
Mm.
The first thing I thought about was my father being on the roof by himself the next morning. Because I was going to have a cast on my leg. I won't be able to get up on the roof. I couldn't climb a ladder unless he hoisted me up there. And it just put me in a pretty different place. So I got up and I was going at it. And we went at it. And it was like the old mud, blood, the beer. The blood was flying and spit was flying. And he was, he was a pretty good hand.
Yeah.
And I just happened to get the best of him, and I was going in for a guillotine, and Vern saw that and didn't want his professional wrestler to be, in a bad position before in front of the cameras.
Right.
So he told everybody, "Get out! All right, let's break it up.
We're done.
They're pulling us apart. I'm trying to pull Billy's good eye out, and so they got us apart. And took me outside the ring and took me out of the bar, out into the barn where we parked our cars. And I'm standing there, and he goes, "Hey, kid," and I'm sweating, I'm bleeding, scratched up, and this went on a little while. It wasn't as quick as I just told it, but
right.
So anyway, he says, "Where'd you learn to fight like that?" And I said, I don't know. I just felt like he was taking advantage of me and trying to hurt me, and I got
mad.
Work. I got to do things.
Right.
Work for my dad. And he goes, "Well, who are? What's your name?" And I said, "Bob." He goes, "Yeah, Bob what?" I said, "Bob Remus." And he goes, "Remus? Are you related to Rudy Remus?" I said, "Yeah, it's my dad." "Remus Roofing?" "Yeah." "Hell, he put the roof on my house. Your dad put the roof on my house." I said, "I know. I helped him put the roof on your house. I was at your house. I know where you live." And so he says, "Oh, son of a bitch." He gives me a hug. And he said, "Tell your dad hi. I love your dad. Just love your dad."
Everybody loved Rudy.
Yeah, everybody loved my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going, "Okay, yeah, thanks." And he goes, he said, "Damn, if you want to make this a profession, you might look me up." He said, "These guys are 8 weeks into this. And, I can't start you. You'd be way behind. Won't be fair to you. Won't be fair to them." So he said, "But next year when Chris Taylor, the heavyweight wrestling champion from Iowa State, and another guy were already booked to be in in a camp. He said, there'll be many more, but you're welcome to do it. So he said, he gave me his phone number, walked to his car, gave me his phone number. So as I got his phone number, I said, thanks. And I went around him. I went to head back in the barn, and he grabbed my arm and he said, where are you going? We're done for the day. I said, no, I got to go up and finish with that guy. Try to start. And he goes, no. If you go through the camp, you'll have plenty of that guy. You don't want to mess with him now.
Mm-hmm.
You may have cut the best of him today, but 9 times out of 10, he's probably going to get the best out of you.
Right.
But I just happened to be lucky that day, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I end up going back home, and my dad, well, how'd it go? I told him what happened. And he said, son of a gun, are you going to go for it? And I said, well, I don't know. It's a year. It's going to be a year yet. He said, well, I think you should go for it. I don't want you to be a roof for the rest of your life. I said, oh, okay. So I went to the training camp, and as Burns said, there's probably 100 wrestlers. And I have to back up. Cosgrove Vasari was also in that camp.
The first one?
The first camp.
Oh.
And that's where I first met him. And he was like 190 pounds. And there wasn't an ounce of fat on him.
Wow.
But he had that look of a amateur wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked like he didn't want to. I'm sure glad they didn't have me.
Like an amateur wrestler or a professional wrestler?
Yeah, amateur.
Yeah.
Amateur. And he just had these lats, and he had,
the traps.
Yeah, the traps, and he just looked awesome.
Yeah.
And so there, and of course, I got to see him more because I would go visit the camp and kind of get an idea of what they were doing. So I could do it too. A lot of free squats and a lot of road work, push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups. And they did all that like for 2 hours before they even got in the ring.
Jeez.
To be thrown around and shown how to put the moves on. So,
I can't imagine.
So anyway, I finally went through the camp, and made it through. There's about 100 guys that showed up. Just 3 of us made it. Chris Taylor and a guy named Paul Pershman, who was Buddy Rose, professional wrestler, Buddy Rose. And Buddy was already kind of a referee and put the rings up, so he kind of knew about the professional wrestling business,
Mm-hmm.
where Chris and I didn't. We didn't know much about it. But so we made it through, went through hell with Billy Robinson, of course. He always made me do more than everybody else, but thank God.
So did you get to fight him again? Wrestle him again?
Many times. Yeah, wrestled him many times, but this time he didn't.
Try to kill you?
Try to break my leg. Gave me an opportunity to go one-on-one, but he was so good and such a great amateur wrestler that he could kind of pretty much control you. And like I said, I got lucky one day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think it was just the adrenaline that happened when he tried to break my leg or my foot, whatever he did. So anyway, we got to be pretty good friends after it. And he's the one that gave me my cauliflower ear. That's how friendly we were.
That's how friendly you were? He gave you your cauliflower ear?
He gave me my cauliflower ear.
Well, how nice of him
to
do that.
Because he had to do a favor for me one night in Omaha and decided to give me a little trophy to take with me the rest of my life.
Nice guy.
Yeah. So anyway.
You have a 2 cauliflower ear.
Right.
You got it. It happened again, didn't it?
No, I just had one, but then I had it surgically repaired better than it would have looked. But that was done on a Friday, and then Sunday, my attorney Ed Nussbaum invited me to a touch football game. So I got one of my wrestling helmets on, and I went to play on his team. The attorneys were against the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had this game, and these doctors kept giving me the elbow of my ear piece there. I forget what they call those. Anyway. I'll think of it. So anyway, it's a wrestling headgear, my headgear. So every time somebody come by me, they give me a shot in the elbow right to my ear. So it got infected, of course. And so Monday, I go back to my doctor and show him. And as soon as I got in and sat in the chair, he got on me and he went, "You were playing touch football. What's wrong with you? I just operated on your ear." I said, "Damn, how news travels." He said, "I'm the quarterback of that team."
You didn't recognize him?
And he said, "I couldn't be there. I had another engagement."
Oh.
But all my doctor friends told me
that you were there.
That I was there. And he said, "So I'm going to fix this. I'm not going to charge you, but don't you be playing no touch football for at least 2 weeks." So, and we won too. The Warriors won. So
nice.
That didn't make him even. That made him less happy. But.
Right.
So anyway, that's how the cauliflower ear happened. But finally, we got through the training camp, and the three of us made it. So Vern took me up to his office and said, "Well, you've made it. You're a professional wrestler." "Oh, great. I figured I was anyway. So he said, "You have an opportunity to go to Charlotte, North Carolina, or you can go to Vancouver, Canada." And I said, "Oh, well, who's all in these places?" So I didn't recognize any of the names in Vancouver, Canada. So I said, "Maybe I'll go to Vancouver, Canada." He said, "Okay, I'll call Gene Kiniski up, and that's where you can go." So I take one of my roofing trucks and my dad, and we drive out to Vancouver, Canada. It's like January, so you can imagine the weather we went through.
Snow.
We went through Wyoming, Montana, Washington, state of Washington, and the snow was piled so high you can't see the semis on the other side of the road.
Wow.
But we got there, and they told me this hotel, the hotel, it was a hotel to check in at. And of course, it was like a flea bag hotel. It's kind of a rib joke kind of a place.
Right.
So when my dad got his suitcase out of the truck and we walked up, he looked at me and he goes, "I think I'm going to head home. Kind of miss your mom. And, we got work to do." And he was just, he didn't want any part of it. So I drove him all the way to Seattle, Washington, so he could fly back home to Minnesota. And so I was there for a week all by myself. And so I would go down to this little bar.
In that hotel?
Yeah, in that hotel. And I'd go down to this little bar, and there was a little lady there that had red hair. I always remember her, and she was a little tiny, petite thing. And I'd have a beer, whatever I could afford. I didn't have a whole lot of money. Your mother and I were, here I was gone, and she's working at Howard Johnson's.
Right.
So anyway.
So you didn't have kids at this point?
I didn't have any children. No. And so I finally started looking at the newspaper, and she said, what do you keep looking for? And because some of it was different. It was like a French, and then there was an English paper. And so I kept saying, I want to see the wrestling advertisement, if there's an ad. So I kept looking, didn't see it. So finally I came down on a Friday, and she said, Mr. Remus, here, I think there's something in the paper. So I look and get the sports page, and I look, and there's this little tiny advertisement. Mm-hmm. Professional wrestling, Vancouver Coliseum this Monday. And I got there the Monday before, so I'm there the whole week. So I made a couple of trips to the Coliseum, make sure I knew how to get there. I didn't want to be late.
Right.
My first professional wrestling match. So I looked, and there's this little advertisement, and it's got all the wrestlers on it, world champion and tag team champions and everybody else. I didn't see my name, so I thought, oh, darn, maybe I'm not supposed to be here. Then I looked one more lying down, and it said plus one other match. That was me.
You were plus one.
I was plus one other match.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty cool. So I asked her if I could cut it out. She said, "Oh yeah." Got me scissors, and I cut this little thing out of the paper. Went upstairs and put it on a piece of paper, put some tape around it, and I made a big arrow pointing at plus one other match. And I said, "Dad, I made it."
Aww.
And so I sent it to him, and so then I go to the matches, and I'm there like 3 hours early. I didn't want to be late.
Probably the first time in your life you've ever been early.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably. I'd probably say that's probably true.
That is 100% true. You're late to everything.
Yeah, learned a valuable lesson there. Got to be too early.
Because why? What happened?
So, well, I walked in, and there's this Adonis kind of guy sitting on a bench, book in his hand, smoking a cigarette. I mean, he was tan from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. But, I'm just saying that he had a suit on. So I recognized him. And I walked over to him, and I put my bag down, and I went to introduce myself, and he jumped down, and he stepped on his cigarette, put his book down, he put his hand out to me, and goes, "I'm Jack Briscoe, NWA World Heavyweight Champion." And I said, "Yes, you are. Yes, you damn sure are." And I was like a little kid because he was a great amateur wrestler in Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. Unbelievable amateur wrestler, plus he was a great professional wrestler. So I went to tell him my name. I said, "Yes, you are. You are Jack Briscoe." And I went, "My name's Bob." Before I could say my name, he said, "You're Bob Remus. I know who you are."
Oh.
And I went, "You know who I am? You know who Bob Remus is?" He goes, "Yeah. Anybody beat up Billy Robinson, I need to know who they are." I heard you had a little bout with Billy and you came out on top. And I said, "Funny you should know that." He said, "Word gets around in this business." He gave me one of these. That means you're a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what that meant. And I didn't know I was a shooter. I just was trying to survive.
Right.
Trying to stay alive. Just, as I said, got lucky. Now, there's a few guys out there, Jim Brunzell, who went through that camp. You can ask Cosgrove. He was in that camp. And a couple of guys that were in that camp, they can tell you what happened. I'm not making it up. And for Jack Briscoe to know about it, it had to be important, because why would he even bother? So
right.
I've been heard through the grapevine that a guy who was Davy Boy Smith's son said he got trained by Billy Robinson, and he said there's no way Sergeant Slaughter beat Billy Robinson. No way. And Jim Brunzell, he said, I don't remember, that happening. Well, of course you don't want to remember it. You're just lucky it wasn't you.
Right.
And I can't wait to see either one of them. Because Davy Boy Smith's son's supposed to be a shooter. What I've heard, I know Jim Brunzell isn't, because all he did in high school was jump. He was a high jumper. So anyway, you two guys, I can't wait to run into you sometime on the road, and you can tell me to my face that I didn't beat Billy Robinson. I got a few people that said I did, and Cosgrove was sorry, one of them. The Iron Chief. So anyway, and unfortunately,
So
Bob Druggers, I believe, I'm not sure if he's still with us, but he had a car accident. He was probably the most athletic of that group that I went to watch at that training camp, because he was a letterman in All-State in Minnesota in basketball, baseball, and football. And he was a hell of an athlete, but he had gotten a car accident and messed him really bad.
It's too bad.
So that's kind of how I got into professional wrestling, and I was labeled a shooter. Didn't even know what it was. I mean, but Jack Briscoe said, "By the way, you are you here for a while?" I said, "This is my first night." He said, "Oh," he said, "I'm here for a week. So do you have a car?" And I said, "Well, I get a pickup truck." He says, "Well, that's even better." He said, "Do you have some country music in that pickup truck?" I said, I'll find some." He said, "Well, would you mind if I ride with you for the week?" And I said, "It'd be an honor." So my first week in the business, I rode up and down the roads of Canada with Jack Briscoe, the world heavyweight champion,
Wow.
NWA, and educated me quite a lot. And as he wanted to leave, he said, "Bob, I really enjoyed meeting you, and you got what it takes to be a real big name in this business. I've been watching you." And he said, "But I kind of think you got to think of a different character." So that's where it kind of started. When he saw the beautiful Bobby, he just knew that I had the talent to be in the business. I just didn't have the right character yet. So
Right.
we laughed about it many times together, and what advice he gave me.
So that was probably the best way to start your first week in the business.
Yeah.
Was with the heavyweight champion giving you advice.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
That's amazing.
Yeah, sure was. So, Kel, we talked a lot about me, and I kind of interrupted you about what it was like to be my daughter and how it was to go to school, and when you first started finding out that your dad was a celebrity. Did you? I wondered if you thought if your mother was a celebrity too.
I thought that everyone had somebody famous in their family.
Oh, okay.
Because everyone that I met had a wrestler in their family, or there was somebody, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like Lord Alfred Hayes' kids. Right. It was like so there was somebody in the family that was known.
Right.
So I just assumed everybody that I met knew someone that was famous or it was in their family. I don't, how a little kid's brain works.
Right.
So yeah, I just thought everybody.
When did you kind of realize that, your dad was somebody different than somebody else's dad?
Well, you guys, I remember walking in on you in the living room watching your matches. And I would go, "What are you doing, Daddy?" And you would go, "Daddy was just dancing."
Yeah.
And I don't think I even saw the screen. Like, I didn't even really see what you were even watching, but you would turn it off right away. Right. And then you would say, "Daddy was dancing." So I often wonder, like, how many times people are like, "Well, what does your daddy do?" And I was like, "He dances." But so whenever it was that you guys finally told me and Nicole what you did, I remember having the neighbor, like, telling everyone, because I was so excited, like, how cool. It's like a cool thing I can tell everyone about me, So all the neighborhood kids knew, and I remember you had been gone and you were home and you were sleeping. You'd probably been sleeping. You'd probably gotten home at like 3:00 in the morning, and it was like 6:00 in the morning, and I was already up and awake with my friends and brought them into the house. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm exaggerating. Probably wasn't really 6 a.m. It was probably more like 9, maybe 8:30, and early, especially for you, because you had been traveling and working and been on the road. So I bring all of my friends into the room.
Into the bedroom.
Into the bedroom where you were sleeping.
Right to the inside of the bed.
All the way into the room. We gathered around the bed. And you were there sleeping.
Yeah.
And then you said you heard.
You said, "That's him. That's my daddy. That's him. That's my daddy." And it woke me up. And I think I was sleeping in the raw that morning.
In the nude.
In the nude. I took a shower when I got home. I jumped into bed and Kelly, hi Kelly, Diane, Diane. There's a bunch of kids up here.
Yeah, so I was very proud.
Yeah, you were.
Of who you were.
Right.
And that I was your daughter.
Right.
And then we moved to Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
And everything changed.
Yeah, it was a little different there.
It was different there. And I don't know why. Nicole and I talk about this, why it was so different. And I don't know. Her and I had, my sister Nicole and I, she's 4 years older. And we had completely different experiences when it came to our people knowing who you were. Could be because she was 4 years older. Could be just because I am how I am. And I pissed people off. And I maybe was bragging about it a little bit too much. And people didn't like that. I don't know. But we moved from Charlotte, which was like wrestling. Lots of wrestling. Lots of fans in Charlotte. We moved to Connecticut, which is where the WWE offices are. But it's a lot higher class in Connecticut. It was like we were going to school with doctors' kids and lawyers' kids. And we were like lower than them almost.
You felt that way?
I didn't feel that way. But it was like because they had, I don't know. Like, you know, the high school parking lot, the student parking lot, the kids drove like Ferraris and Mercedes and, you know, Nicole was driving a Dodge Shadow. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't, I don't know, it was just different. And maybe because I was more of so proud of who you were, whereas Nicole was more quiet about it, it rubbed people the wrong way. I don't know.
Well, Nicole actually went to school with
Keith
Richards' son. Keith Richards' son.
Yeah.
She told me it was almost pure white. His hair was pure white almost. Complete opposite of Keith. I guess his mother must have had the blonde hair or whatever. But she said they kind of got along because their fathers were celebrities and it was a different life. They kind of got together more because they knew, it wasn't the same, for them as it was for everybody else. I don't know why that happens, but yeah. But I remember before we left for Connecticut, your mother one time was driving you to school, and there's 3 little children in the back seat with you. And
in Charlotte or Connecticut?
In
Charlotte.
And she was driving you to school.
Mm-hmm.
I think they took turns. Parents took turns driving their children in the neighborhood to school and all that. Yeah. And all of a sudden the
Hamilton Mill Gang, shout out. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
So the conversation got to be about wrestling. The little boy in the back was talking about, I was watching wrestling last night. And there's this really bad guy named Sergeant Slaughter. And my dad really doesn't like him and blah, blah, blah. And your mother said, gosh, if he only knew whose car he was riding in and who he's sitting next to. And because you didn't know much about wrestling at that time.
Right.
Like when you came in and caught me watching myself.
It was before I knew.
I'd say, oh, Daddy's just dancing. I'm dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be where every dance function you would say, Daddy, you got to go dancing with me. You got to go dancing with me. So, but I remember that. Your mother always talks about that, how that little boy was putting down Sergeant Slaughter, She said, "Oh, God, if you only knew
Yep,
car
whose
he
car
was
he
in."
was in.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that happened to me all the time.
But it didn't
All the
take us
time.
long. I had once we got to Connecticut, I had a 911 wide body whale tail Porsche 911.
Yep, that was a beautiful Porsche. That was supposed to be my car, you know.
It was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be.
Right.
And then it didn't happen that way.
Didn't happen that way.
Probably a good thing. I probably would not be here right now.
Yeah.
So when we moved to Connecticut, so things were awesome when we lived in Charlotte and everybody loved you and loved me and it was great. And then we moved to Connecticut and things were a little bit different for reasons we don't know. But I remember for show and tell in first grade going in and I had your G.I. Joe and I held it up, which I actually have one. In the bag, of course. You're not going to take it out.
Oh, you got the swagger stick.
Yeah, I even got the swagger stick. Somewhere in there. There it is. So I held it up and I said, for show and tell, this is my dad.
And what was the reaction?
It was this. And one little boy, and I know exactly who it is. I will never forget who it was. He didn't do anything wrong, but he just said, your dad's plastic? And I went, no, this is my dad. My dad is Sergeant Slaughter. This is my dad. That's my dad. And they were like, okay. Like they did not give two shits who you were and who I was. So I guess you could say that was like a very humbling experience, but when you're in first grade, you don't really know what that means.
Right.
So yes, fun times. But I remember babysitting for someone. And do you see what the cat is doing? Kitty.
Cat was walking all over my pictures, denting them.
She was trying to lay on them.
Yep.
Okay. So, what was I saying?
What were you saying?
Oh, so I remember babysitting, and the dad came home and was going to drive me home. So we're riding in the car and I'm telling him, giving him directions from his house to our house. And we pull out from one street and we have to go across the other. And that's our unmarked gravel road that we lived on. And he starts going, he goes, this road is the road you live on? And I said, yeah. So he starts going, and you have to go slow because, again, it's gravel and there's potholes and it's really long. And he was like, you know, somebody told me Sergeant Slaughter lives on this street or down this road. And I said, yeah, that's my neighbor. So he goes, he's your neighbor? And I went, yeah. Well, he just ripped you a new one. I mean, he cussed you out up and down, all around, chewed you up, spit you out. Obviously, this is when you were an Iraqi sympathizer. And so I let him. I let him do it. I'm such a bitch. So I let him do it. And then he pulls up to our, up all the way up to our house, and I go to get out, and I get out of the car, and I'm like, thank you, blah, blah, blah. And I get out of the car, and I said, by the way, I'm talking into the car. I said, Sergeant Slaughter is my dad, and this is his house. Slam! Slam the door and went inside. They never called me to babysit ever again, but I didn't care, and I got him good.
Yeah.
That's all I cared about. But yeah. Oh, now she's chewing on it. Okay, kitty. We're gonna.
You just pull them up.
Yeah. We're gonna do that.
So, what was it like like when you were in the Girl Scouts and things like that, did they know who Sergeant Slaughter was, or did they?
So eventually everybody, all of my friends and the people in my grade and probably everyone in the school, because it was a small school, it was a small town. There were 92 people in my 8th grade graduating class, so it was small. We all knew each other and we all grew up together. So the Girl Scouts, they were my bestest friends and we're still the bestest of friends, and I love them all. Shout out to Troop 488. Love you, ladies. Can't wait to see you in June. Anyway, so they all knew who you were, but Sarge was not allowed in our house. You left Sarge at the arena. When you came home, you were dad. You were Bob. You were a husband and you were a father. And you didn't, I think people, when they ask me, like, what was it like to have Sergeant Slaughter as your dad? I think they want me to say, every time I got in trouble, he would yell and scream at me and tell me to drop and give him 20 and, all the stuff. And it was not like that at all. But they knew you as Mr. Remus.
Right.
You were Mr. Remus.
Right.
They still call you Mr. Remus.
Yeah, they still do.
They still call you Mr. Remus. So, and my friends adored you and you adored my friends, and we were always together at our house or their house.
I remember one of your friends, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I was putting you to bed, and we used to play a little thing called Tickle Monster.
Tickle Monster.
And I would put you to bed and say goodnight, sweet dreams, and I love you, and I'd close the door. Or no, I wouldn't close the door, I would leave.
Yeah.
And then I would come back in, and I'd go, oh, the Tickle Monster's here. And you'd put the covers up over your head, and I'd like tickle you, and I'd run, and you'd go, Dad,
Tickle Monster, help
I'd come
me.
in, I'd go,
help
what? The Tickle Monster was here. And I said, the Tickle Monster? What do you mean the Tickle Monster? Yeah, he was just here. I said, well, I'll go see if I can find him. And then you would settle down, and pretty soon, the Tickle Monster. But Dad. It was fun. So
Yeah.
one time you had a friend staying over overnight. And you were both in the same bed. And I said good night to you, and I said good night to her. I don't remember which friend it was.
I remember who. Yeah.
And so I said, well,
She
good night,
remembers
sweet dreams.
this too.
And so I left, and all of a sudden I came back, and I said, the Tickle Monster's here. And I started tickling you, and you're like, yeah. And you put the covers over your head, and she's got the covers over her, and she puts them down by her neck, and she's like watching. She said, Dad. She said, that's not the Tickle Monster, Kelly. That's your dad. And I run out, and she goes, it's your dad. That was your dad. And you're going,
yeah, that was my dad. You're supposed to go along with it, though.
What's the deal?
Tickle Monster.
Well, maybe he'll come back. And all of a sudden, I am the Tickle Monster.
Yeah.
And you do the same thing, and she wouldn't put it over. She made sure to keep an eyeball on me. She wasn't. And I tried to tickle her, but she didn't want to get involved in it. So I thought, geez, I hope she doesn't go home. I tell her mom and dad that Mr. Remus came in and was like
tickling us while we were in bed,
attacking and screaming and hollering. And Kelly was yelling, Dad, like it was a murder.
I think everyone plays Tickle Monster with their kids.
I would hope so.
I know you think it's unique to you, but they literally have books out called Tickle Monster. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No, they do.
So I interrupted. I didn't mean to interrupt, but you were on a point there.
That's okay. I don't remember my point.
Oh, okay. I should have waited.
You remember what I was talking about? Yeah. We were talking about Girl Scouts.
Girl Scouts, yeah.
I remember Girl Scouts. Again, you had been on the road. And we were having a father-daughter event. And you were trying to make it home. And it was one of those things where you were going to send a friend along with me in case you couldn't go. And I was like, no, please, God.
Yeah, right through.
Either my dad or no one else. My dad or no one else. Like, I don't want to go unless it's my dad because it's just weird. And anyway. So you made it home. I think you were like, Kelly, I'm just going to sleep for 45 minutes and then we're going to go. And I was like, okay, Daddy. So you go and you take your little nap, your power nap, and we go. It was an event at the pool. You were having a father-daughter pool event. We get to the pool. I know you know the story. So
Lucky to be here.
you are lucky to be here. You're lucky I saved your ass.
Yeah.
Okay. So she had, our troop leader had all these different, like, it was like an obstacle course, but it was in the pool that you had to do. And it was the very last thing they had to do. And I can't remember what all of the different funny things were, but you had to have like rubber gloves on and like
You have to have a swimming cap on.
swimming cap on.
You go to one end of the pool, you have to take it off, take your gloves off, go to the other end of the pool, then put it back on another set on the other end of the pool. But,
and swimming back and forth. And it's an Olympic-sized swimming pool. It wasn't like a little pool. It was a huge...
Falling asleep halfway over.
Falling asleep and all this stuff. So it was the very last event. And you were in very last place. You were...
All of a sudden, I had the whole Girl Scout troop jumped in on top of me. I'm drowning.
Because he was drowning.
I'm
So
drowning.
you're drowning.
I was drowning.
Yeah. It wasn't even a shower.
Of me.
It was like a shower cap. It was like over your face.
Yeah, I could get my breath. I was underwater, trying to find the end of the pool, and all these kids are like I'm invincible. Like I'm a Bowie or something.
I'm standing there and I'm watching this, and I'm like, because I was on the swim team,
right?
And I was a much better swimmer than you. Yeah. So you're going, Kelly, or whatever. And so finally I jumped in.
Help Daddy, Kelly. Help Daddy. She jumped in and pulled me to the shore, basically.
To the side of the thing. You were like,
yeah, we got home. I told your mother, I don't think I'll be doing any more swimming events for a while. Almost drowned.
My daughter had to save me.
Yeah, my
11-year-old.
Okay. So if I didn't buy a box of Thin Mints, they were going to drown me again.
That was the best. And Sandy, my troop leader, was the best troop leader.
I remember I'd have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to take you to school because you were on the swim team. And you had to practice before you went to class, like at 5 in the morning.
Yeah, that didn't last long.
No.
That did not last long. I preferred my sleep over going and swimming.
Right.
Because then I had to take a shower at school and get ready at school, and I never had enough time, and my hair was always wet, and then I looked absolutely awful the whole day because I had that Demi Moore from Ghost haircut. So it was basically a bowl cut, and it would air dry and be like, I looked like Bozo the Clown. It was awful.
You did well, though, while you did swim.
I was a very good
swimmer.
Very good swimmer.
I thought you were going to be a, Olympic swimmer at that point. You were really good.
Yeah, I preferred to sleep.
You were always on the relay team, and you always did well.
Butterfly was my stroke.
Right.
I loved the butterfly.
Right.
I still love swimming butterfly. And I remember going to camp, and you had to pass a swim test in order to be able to swim. You could either swim in one section, or then you got to add the deep end, and then you got to add like the whole lake. You could swim across if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, that's the one I'm going to get because I'm on swim team, and I could be a lifeguard here if I wanted to be. And so they were like, doing my swim test, and I'm telling you, I don't need to take the swim test, but everybody has to take the swim test. So I took the swim test, and they had me do backstroke, so I'm doing backstroke. Then they have me do freestyle, so I do freestyle. And then she was like, okay. And I was like, well, wait, you're not going to have me do butterfly? Because that was my favorite stroke, and I want to show it off. And she was like, you know how to do the butterfly? And I was like, yes, I've been telling you I'm on the swim team. She goes, well, if you know how to do the butterfly. She was like, you're green, which was to be able to swim the whole entirety of the lake. And I was like, I told you so. I don't know why you didn't listen to me.